Okay, welcome everyone to Hang Out with an Expert. I'm here with Mark Getman, the New York Guard Public Affairs Officer. Welcome, Mark. How you doing?
Good, doing good.
Awesome. So I figured we'd just get right into it. So talking about the New York Guard, how large is New York Guard now? What's the average? I don't know if you can release that information, but like, if what's the troop count that you can release? Or
Right now we're around 450, 475, or under 500 right now.
what have you guys been up to lately? What have you been up to this year?
Well, this year is a big year for us, and I have to get the plugs in. We're celebrating 100 years of the New York Guard. We just had our big Sleepy Hollow Memorial service, which commemorates the service members who died 1917 protecting the waterways of New York. And then later in the year, as part of the centennial, we're having, instead of our holiday gala, we're calling it the Centennial New York Guard Centennial Gala. Plus, we've had about 70 soldiers total who've been on state active duty with the National Guard, Air National Guard, Army National Guard, Naval Militia, working up in Ontario, Lake Ontario, helping fill sandbags because of the lakes overflowing. So they've been on state paid active duty.
You're still on active duty, right? Like, there's a lot of guys.
There's still some, yeah. It's trickling down, but there's still some. So it's been going on for about a month and a half already, a little bit longer. This is big because it gives a lot of the newer soldiers who just came in last year a chance to get on state paid active duty and work alongside National Guard, Air National Guard, Naval Militia to work on a joint mission.
From what I understand, you guys always worked with the Army National Guard, augmenting them and supporting them in numerous ways, right, over the years. I mean, this is not just like a one-off. You guys constantly do this. You had that Hurricane
Sandy in 2012. Yes. So we also had the National Guard were activated, Air National Guard, the New York Guard were activated. I was in the National Guard at the time, but also a lot of the New York Guard were activated at that time, and they were on duty for 30 days. Some were shorter, some were longer.
But do you guys normally throughout the year work with the National Guard on very missions, or is this just during like emergencies during here?
Mostly we work with them on missions. State active duty, it depends how serious the state active duty, but we also do some training with them. Some of the units actually do joint training with them. The engineers, our engineers work with the New York National Guard engineers in some engineering projects. I work with public affairs. I've worked alongside with public affairs from the National Guard. We'll cover an event together. Our lawyers who provide legal services for the Air National Guard, Army National Guard before deployments, and we have COMO, MERN, that they work military emergency radio network that they are training together with the National Guard as well. So we're seeing a lot more joint training and joint operations.
You guys were a big part of, from what I understand, CERF, right? CERF.
Right. Chemical, I forgot what CERF stands for, but that's no longer our mission. But they did work along National Guard with that when it was our mission.
You're incorporated into majority, like when the National Guard has a mission, do they constantly try to incorporate the New York Guard into those events?
Some units do, some units don't. It varies, but we're seeing more and more requests, especially in Camp Smith, that's run by the 53rd Troop Command, that they use us, they use the New York Guard, that they see what we could do. And I guess it depends on the mission and the needs of the National Guard. If they need us, they say, hey, can you spare a couple people?
In terms of, I heard you guys are also participate in, I think it's called tag matches.
They participate. They've been participating even when I was in 2002. We have a tag pistol team, and it's soldiers with their own pistols. They have to be licensed, of course. They have a New York City license or whatever license they need to be able to carry their own pistol. The ammo is provided when they train or practice. It's on their own expense. And we had a team of, I think, 12 this year, and a few of them placed fifth position individual, sixth individual all around. Several years back, they scored first and second.
Your missions recently changed. You guys are, I heard, moving more to communications. Is that correct?
Communications, yes, that's a big focus. Is the MERN, Military Emergency Radio Network teams. So a lot of our MERN teams were actually activated for Sandy. When communications were down, they went, set up the emergency radio network, so Camp Smith could communicate with Latham. Latham could communicate down to Long Island because there was no other way to communicate, and these were essential missions. And the first thing is, at any disaster, is setting up commo. So we had teams that went out and set up the military emergency radio network systems, so there could be communications between the units on the ground, and so the TOC and Camp Smith and Latham knew what was going on.
Oh, okay. And besides commo, are you guys? Is there any major focus like?
The main focus now is everybody's to be a generalist. Everybody should know a little bit of everything because we never know what the mission is going to be. In the future, everybody's going to know how to use a chainsaw. Everybody's going to know how to use a forklift, pod distribution, for distribution centers. So they want everybody to know a little bit of everything because you don't know what the mission's going to call for. And, it could be health and welfare, knocking on the doors and checking on people, see how they're doing. It could be setting up MERNs. It could be setting up traffic control. So they wanted more to be everybody to be generalists. And the other thing I forgot to mention that we were called for is not last year but the year before, the big snowstorm in Buffalo. We had when Buffalo was hit with the snowstorms, they didn't have enough. They couldn't get enough soldiers out there to help with the shoveling of the snow. And we sent, at that time, we sent also soldiers again who lived closer to that area that could get there. They were on state paid active duty. It's a mission. They were, again, working alongside National Guard and National Guard to help shovel snow. So it's tasks like those that they call us for, saying, hey.
You guys still do like search and rescue kind of missions like that?
No, the search and rescue was pulled a couple of years ago.
You guys have like how long is yours? From what I understand, it's like a week, right?
Initial entry training is a week for those with no prior service, yes, and that's coming up in August.
From what I was told, that it's very strict. It's Army level kind of training.
It's very intensive. They try to do as much basic soldiering that they can for those who don't have any prior service within a week, to teach them the basic soldier, how to be a soldier, how to march, how to wear the uniform, they do some land nav, but they try to pack it as much as possible from 5 to 9 at night, so the long days, and they even have some PT in them too. They make them run a little bit.